Wasabi guys! Alright everyone, this top 10 video for Commander comes by request of a viewer. Peter here says, "Hey man, I have yet to find a video for the top 10 political commanders. I'm wanting ideas for the next deck to build, and I want it to be politically incentivized. Let me know if this is a good video to make because I would love to watch it." Well, I hope you do like this one, and thank you for the request, because it's a great topic for a top 10 here. Politics is kind of like group hug. I think you're going to find a lot of politics in many commander decks, but especially in group hug where you're trying to use favors for leverage so that you can then turn certain opponents against each other. And you're clearly not going to be the threat if you're playing more of a group hug deck, so it's easier to accomplish this kind of politics in Commander. But that's all politics really is. It's about convincing someone else that another opponent is the real threat, and therefore they go after them. They're more incentivized to go after that player. So I have 10 commander options, 10 legendary creatures here that I think make fantastic political commanders. So number 10 here we have Feldegriff. Kind of one of the meme commanders in the game, if we're just talking about having a good time, all fun and jokes. Feldegriff is a pretty decent group hug commander as well because there's not really a mean streak in Feldegriff. You're not really in it to punish any opponent, however, this card is very selective with its abilities. You're not giving everyone an advantage, you don't have to. You can just choose one opponent and then make friends with them and then turn them against your other opponents and keep them against your other opponents. Always been kind of a fun commander to build around, but still, I mean only number 10 because Feldegriff is kind of a joke commander. And then number 9 here we have Mathis, Fiend Seeker. I think Mathis is totally political as a commander. You're going to go after whoever is the most threatening opponent, and you're going to put bounty counters on their creatures. When those creatures die with the bounty counters, each of that player's opponents is going to draw a card and then gain 2 life. So your other opponents are not only encouraged to help you destroy creatures in order to get that card draw and that life gain, but they're also going to want to help you keep your Mathis out there so that you can keep putting more bounty counters on your opponent's creatures, making it just a very good political card. Not really a commonly played commander option, which is why it's only number 9, but one that I think is pretty versatile. I mean, it can be thrown into several decks. It's only 3 mana, and it offers you card draw if you need it. And then number 8 is Dric, Spymaster of Tress. Now we're talking here. You get kind of a coastal piracy ability, but whenever a creature deals combat damage to an opponent. So this is really closer to being politics. We have a lot of card draw like Howling Mine, which isn't really political, but card draw like this where there's a clear benefit to not attacking you, that's political. So it's easy to turn opponents against each other if they get card draw for dealing combat damage to someone who isn't you. Dric hasn't quite been as popular as it used to be back in the earlier days of the Commander format, but no doubt if you want to make more of a political deck, incentivizing your opponents to do something that doesn't really hurt you at all, then Dric is your kind of commander. And then number 7, we have Ludwig, Necro Alchemist, very similar. At the beginning of each player's end step, that player may draw a card if a player other than you lost life this turn. Very similar. The clear advantage here, though, is that your opponents have to attack someone else. They have to force someone else to lose life. In order to get that card draw, if they're desperate for that card draw, you cannot lose life. Everyone else is fair game, so if they want to go after your other opponents, they will then get that extra card draw. And there's a lot of people out there who will follow the rules of Ludwig. They won't deal damage to you, they won't force you to lose life, and they'll do it all for that one card at the beginning of the end step. Another clear advantage here with Ludwig is that he is a partner commander, so you have more colors to fool around with. You can make potentially a 4-color political deck, because Ludwig in blue and red is not all that strong on his own. The partner mechanic really making a lot of these partners stronger because of all the possibilities, so that you have even more colors to include in a political deck. And then number 6 we have Atheros, God of Passage. Now we're talking here. Let's talk about some really powerful abilities and what you can really benefit from if you're playing a political game. Atheros, God of Passage can be a powerful commander no matter how you play him. He's been one of my favorite commanders for a long time. 3 mana indestructible enchantment creature. You know, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's great value there. And whenever another creature you control dies though, return it to your hand unless target opponent pays 3 life. Keyword target there. So you can single out a friend, you can make a friend at the table, give you one of the creatures that died back to your hand. And even if they don't, okay, it's basically a lightning bolt. So your friend really has no reason to deprive you of whatever creature died. And that's why Atheros makes a very powerful political commander. While the deck theme itself may not be politics in the end, this mechanic is one of the most political among popular commander options. And number 5, we have the newest card on this list, Shadric's Silver Quill. Just a crazy cool dragon. That's what I like about black and white in this new set, Strixhaven. Very political, very group huggy. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may choose 2. Each mode must target a different player. So the obvious thing to do here is target yourself and target an opponent. Target player creates a 2/1 white and black Inkling creature token with flying. Target player draws a card and loses a life, or target player puts a +1/+1 counter on each creature they control. So all great abilities, very political because the advantage here is clear, the incentive is clear. You're making a short-term alliance with an opponent, giving them one of these 3 great advantages. You're giving them card draw, you're giving them a creature token, or you're giving them +1/+1 counters on all of their creatures, which is ridiculous. In addition to that, I mean, you're also getting the benefit yourself. So it's really just you and an opponent, or it doesn't even have to be you can choose 2 opponents, and really just turn 2 players against 1. It's just really embracing the best part about politics in Commander. You're doing favors for other favors. And then number 4, we have Zancha, Sleeper Agent. And sometimes politics isn't about doing other players favors or doing one player a favor. Sometimes it's about really just going after one player and making it clear that if you go after this player, there is your advantage, there's your clear card draw source. So Zancha is clearly, I mean, this is really what defines politics and how clearly that is defined versus just group hug. Group hug is just everyone gets an advantage here off of something like a Howling Mine. Politics is more about, no, you should attack this player, and here's why. It's really the reason why politics is politics in Commander. It's not nice. Certain people are not going to like being ganged up on, but without a doubt, one of the most political things that you can do is sick a Zancha on one of your opponents. And then number 3, we have Kenrith, the Returned King. Now, Kenrith is not typically built as a political commander. Really, you can build Kenrith however you want to, taking advantage of any of those abilities. You even have competitive EDH decks that are pretty powerful. Kenrith can be played politically because all of those abilities can affect one opponent, and they only have to affect one opponent. So all creatures gain trample and haste until end of turn. You can pay 2 mana and put a +1/+1 counter on one of their creatures, but you can pay 3 mana, target player gains 5 life. That can save players from being eliminated in the game. You can pay 4 mana, target player draws a card, or you can pay 5 mana, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under its owner's control. So all of those abilities can affect your opponents if you want them to. If you want to play politically, you have that option with Kenrith. It's kind of like with Atheros. You have a pretty powerful option here as a commander, but the abilities are so flexible that if you want to turn players against each other, it's so easy to do that with Kenrith, the Returned King. And then number 2, we have Pramicon Sky Rampart. Wizards of the Coast, one thing they are not is subtle. Pramicon Sky Rampart is blue and red and white for a legendary wall creature with flying and defender, and as it enters the battlefield, you choose left or right. Each player may attack only the nearest opponent in the chosen direction, and planeswalkers by that opponent. So if you read between the lines there, I mean, Pramicon is inherently political. But when it comes to just forcing an opponent to do something, sometimes you don't even have to do it by persuading them. You can just force them to attack in a certain direction. And that's what's very political about Pramicon here, is that suddenly the game is about, do you give up the ability to swing and deal an insane amount of damage because the opponent you're forced to attack isn't really able to defend themselves, they don't really have a good board presence? Do you hold all that back because the Pramicon player is making you do it? Or do you just go ahead and do it anyway? So it's very unique in how it's political. We don't really have many commanders that just say, this is how you play the game. We have some that affect the board, but we don't really have any that say, no, you don't attack that player, this player attacks you, and then you attack someone weaker. So it's just crazy. It's not really pillow fort, it's just forcing an opponent in a single direction. So more than just the actual design of the card is political, how you play the game with Pramicon is political too. And before we go on to number 1, let's talk about some honorable mentions here. We have Nin the Pain Artist, but I haven't really seen a Nin the Pain Artist deck in a long time, but you do have some good card draw there. You can kill off creatures and then easily make friends with players if that's what you want to do. We have Gisela Blade of Gold Knight, very political. I know a lot of people don't view Gisela like that, but it's kind of like another dric, where each opponent, if they want to go at it with each other, they're going to deal double damage. They're not really incentivized to go after you unless they want to get rid of your Gisela. And then we have Guafa Hazid, another pretty underplayed commander option, but you're going to be making friends, you're going to be putting bribery counters on creatures, giving their controller card draw. It's kind of the name of the game here, making friends with one opponent or incentivizing your opponents against attacking you. But then we have number 1, we have Tasigur, the Golden Fang. Again, kind of like Kenrith, kind of like Atheros, not what you typically think of when you're looking to build a politics stack in Commander, but the ability is inherently political. You pay 4 mana and you put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard, then return a non-land card of an opponent's choice from your graveyard to your hand. And it is an opponent's choice, so you do get to choose there who gives you the card back to your hand. And if it can be any card in your graveyard that's not a land, all you really have to do is say, hey buddy, I've got a Toxic Deluge in my graveyard, you want to get out of this problem? And that's all you have to do, and Tasigur is incredibly resilient, because all you have to do is just delve them out there again. You keep filling your graveyard, the commander tax is a pittance. So really, I mean, that's what you do in a political game. You make yourself look like the least threatening opponent, and then you take advantage of that. You get something ridiculously powerful back from your graveyard, which in a normal game, in a non-political game, there's no way your opponents are going to give you back the best card from your graveyard. But with Tasigur, in many games that's possible. So anyway, let me know what you think about this top 10 video for the most political commanders in the game. As always, if you have not, subscribe, like, comment, share, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos.